Thank you.
So good morning. It's a privilege to testify before this committee today. San Francisco Bay is an iconic water second to none. It is the West Coast's largest estuary and drains water from approximately 40% of California. Despite being surrounded by over 7 million people, San Francisco Bay is an ecological hotspot with more than 100 endangered species. The Bay provides an abundance of recreational opportunities, including the 365-mile San Francisco Bay Trail. And commercially, the Bay contains 6 ports, is a major driver of the tourism industry, and offers an inviting backdrop for some of the largest and best-known companies in the world, which are located on its shoreline. So in short, San Francisco Bay is an ecological, commercial, and recreational marvel. Since the gold rush, there have been 3 chapters in the Bay's evolution: degradation, preservation, and now restoration. Until the early 1960s, the Bay was drastically altered by urbanization, salt production, agricultural uses that reduced the Bay's size by 1/3 and destroyed about 80% of the Bay's tidal wetlands. With the birth of the environmental movement, the second chapter of the Bay's evolution began as we worked to preserve the Bay and reduce pollution and Bay fill. We've now embarked on a new chapter for the Bay where we are enhancing and restoring this remarkable natural asset for the benefit of both people and wildlife. In 1999, scientists published the Baylands Ecosystem Habitat Goals, calling for the creation of 100,000 acres of healthy tidal wetlands. And tidal wetlands are vitally important to the Bay's ecosystem. They trap polluted runoff, and they also provide natural protection against flooding and sea level rise. Starting from about 30,000 acres of original wetlands, we've restored or are in the process of restoring about 18,000 additional acres. But with approximately 44,000 acres yet to restore, much remains to be done. A few notable milestones. In 2003, 15,000 acres of South Bay salt ponds were purchased and are now being restored, and this is the largest restoration project in the country west of the Mississippi. In 2008, the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority was created to raise and allocate local funding for restoration. In June 2016, Measure AA, a 20-year, $12 parcel tax, was passed by 70% of the voters across all 9 Bay Area counties. Measure AA provides about $25 million annually, or $500 million over 20 years to fund restoration projects. And in 2018, we initiated the Bay Restoration Regulatory Integration Team to expedite and coordinate permitting across the 6 state and federal agencies. But against this positive backdrop, in 2015, scientists issued a very serious warning and wake-up call. They reported that without accelerating the pace of wetland restoration, existing sites that could be restored will be drowned by the rising Bay waters. They emphasized that tidal marshes established by 2030, just 11 years away, are more likely to flourish. And that's because at a gradual rate of sea level rise, such as what we're experiencing now, marshes can trap sediment and keep up as sea level rise accelerates. So it's clear we're in a race against time. While many building blocks are in place to restore the Bay, we are hampered by inadequate federal funding. Over the last 10 years, only 28% of the funds spent on acquisition and restoration of the Bay lands were from federal sources. And now this is despite the fact that much of the restoration has involved property owned by the federal government. Traditionally, federal funding for other major estuaries has dwarfed the amounts that the San Francisco Bay has received. The EPA-administered San Francisco Bay Water Quality Improvement Program provides only $5 million annually. That is why the legislation introduced by Congresswoman Jackie Speier, H.R. 1132, the San Francisco Bay Restoration Act, is so timely and important. Her bill would authorize up to $25 million annually to the EPA to award grants to Bay conservation and restoration projects. It would also establish a San Francisco Bay Program Office within the EPA. In conclusion, to restore the Bay, we have put in place a comprehensive, science-based plan a 20-year local funding source through Measure AA, and a collaborative partnership to expedite permitting. But with sea level rise accelerating, we have limited time to complete the remaining restoration work that is needed. The missing ingredient is the necessary federal funding to complement our local efforts. Thank you.